They told you that if you wanted love, you had to earn it. So you tried, you showed up, no matter how busy or tired you were. You texted first with genuine care. You planned the dates, paid attention to the small details, and gave more than you received, always holding on to the hope that one day she would finally choose you. But something strange kept happening, something that didn't quite make sense at first. The more effort you gave, the faster she seemed to pull away. It didn't matter how kind you were or how consistent. It didn't even matter if you showed up as the very best version of yourself. In her eyes, you became too easy, too predictable, too available. Because what comes without struggle is often taken for granted. And here lies a truth no one ever really taught you: what is easily gained is rarely deeply valued. Machiavelli didn't write about romance. He wrote about power. Yet his words still echo through the quiet frustration. It's the silent ache of men who chase too hard, who love too openly without boundaries. He said, "It is far safer to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both." But the fear he spoke of wasn't aggression, it was presence. Okay, powerful presence that turns heads, that commands attention without ever needing to plead for it. Picture that kind of presence. The one that enters a room and shifts the atmosphere without saying a word. Most men lose that edge the moment they start seeking validation instead of living with direction. It's the moment they begin orbiting around her world instead of building their own. Because here's the truth. Women are not drawn to desperation. They're drawn to gravity, to stillness, to mystery, to the quiet confidence of a man who looks her in the eyes and says, "I want you here, but I will never need you to complete me." This isn't a trick. This isn't manipulation. This is transformation. A deep shift from chasing to attracting, from performing to leading, from constantly proving your worth to quietly embodying it. And the moment you stop trying to win her over paradoxically, it's the moment she begins to wonder why she ever needed to be convinced in the first place. In this video, you'll discover 5 timeless shifts grounded in Machiavellian clarity and masculine discipline. These aren't just principles that change how women perceive you. They alter how you perceive yourself. They sharpen your focus. They steady your step. They remind you of who you were before you started chasing. So if you're tired of the emotional tug of war, tired of giving your power to people who never earned it, then don't just listen. Lean in. Let every word sink into you. And when you feel something shift, something inside that moves not with noise but with a calm, heavy realization, follow it. Like this video. Subscribe to this channel. Not for me, but for the man you're becoming. Because that man doesn't plead for love. He commands it. Everything changes the moment he stops chasing. Every man knows that sting. You meet a woman who lights something inside you. You show up fully. You give her your best, your kindness, your consistency, your effort, ... And what does she do? She fades. She begins to pull back. She grows cold, distant like a flame that once burned bright but is now barely flickering. At first you turn inward. You start questioning yourself, replaying every word, every moment. Maybe you didn't say the right things. Maybe you weren't charming enough, romantic enough. Maybe, just maybe, you simply weren't enough. But here's the brutal truth that no one tells you. It wasn't about what you gave. It was about what your giving revealed. Machiavelli once wrote, "Men judge more by the eye than by the touch. They see what you seem to be, not what you are." And what did you seem to be in her eyes? Available, eager, predictable, easy? Now pause for a second and ask yourself, in a world where she's constantly chased, where validation arrives in waves of texts, compliments, likes, and swipes, what does availability look like? Does it scream strength, or does it quietly whisper submission? In her reality, attention is abundant. Her inbox overflows. Compliments are cheap. In that landscape, what grabs her attention isn't more attention, it's scarcity. It's presence that's rare, not presence that's handed out like a flyer. It's presence that's earned, not given freely. The man who overgives too soon doesn't appear deep. He appears hungry. And hunger, especially when emotional, repels more often than it attracts. Because what is truly valuable never needs to beg. It doesn't chase, it anchors. It holds its ground. It shapes the space around it simply by existing. Let's make this clear. The man who constantly texts her, rearranges his schedule to please her, who always says yes without pause, he isn't building connection. He's erasing tension. In the absence of tension, attraction doesn't flourish. It dies quietly, unnoticed. But the man who walks a different path, the one who doesn't rush to reply, who doesn't abandon his own rhythm just to be in hers, who remains centered in his mission, that man becomes rare. And rarity, that's magnetic. Women don't pursue availability. They pursue significance. Significance creates curiosity, makes her pause, makes her wonder. So here's the real shift. The moment you stop placing her at the center of your universe, you give her a reason to start wondering where your gravity lies. What is it that holds you together so firmly? What is it that makes you complete, even without her? Imagine two men. The first man waits on her hand and foot. He's always ready, always eager. She texts, he replies instantly. She cancels, he forgives without question. He places her above everything, including himself. There's no challenge, no resistance, just pure availability. The second man doesn't play games. He isn't cold, but he's building something. His life is full, rich with purpose, structure, and ambition. He's not always reachable, not because he's ignoring her, but because he has priorities. He responds with intention, not urgency. He gives his time, but never chases it. Now ask yourself, which man will she lean toward? Which one will catch her off guard, make her second guess, make her curious enough to pursue? It's not about being distant. It's about having depth. It's about being a man who lives in a world so solid, so full of purpose that she wants to be part of it. It's not a man who drops everything just to orbit hers. This is why your mission matters. This is why your habits, your discipline, your growth, they're not just about self-improvement. They're about the foundation you stand on, the field from which you operate, the quiet strength that speaks without words. Because every time you chase her, you send out a silent message. You are more valuable than my purpose. And nothing, absolutely nothing, drains masculine energy faster than that silent lie. Here's what women feel. Even if they never say it out loud, a man who gives away all of his time has nothing sacred left. No standards, no boundaries. Kingdom of his own. Machiavelli warned rulers that constant exposure breeds contempt. A man who is always present, who makes himself endlessly accessible, gradually loses the art of influence. His presence no longer commands respect, becomes expected, mundane, even taken for granted. In the world of modern dating, this truth plays out with remarkable clarity. If you're always there, she stops noticing you're there. That's why. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can offer isn't your attention, it's your absence. Let her feel it. Let her experience what it means to not have immediate access to you, not as punishment, but as a quiet reminder. Your energy, your presence, your time are earned, not owed. When she doesn't hear from you, curiosity is sparked. When your response doesn't come instantly, questions begin to form. And in those questions, desire starts to grow. You don't need to withhold love. That's not the point. You need to invest it with discernment, with discipline into your body, your craft, your mission. Pour it into the things that sharpen you, that strengthen your character, that shape your future. Because when your time becomes valuable to you, it gains value in her eyes too. You train, you build, you reflect. You plan with clarity and move with intention. And when you finally do engage with her, it's not from a place of emptiness. From fullness. You're not hoping she fills a void in your soul. You're offering her a glimpse into a life that is already full, already rich with meaning. And here's where the shift happens. In that subtle change, everything begins to realign. She leans in. She texts first. She starts showing up with more intention, more effort. It's not because you've played mind games, but because, finally, you stopped playing yourself. So let me ask you a simple, powerful question. If she had to earn your time the same way you earn your own, would she even qualify? That is the paradox of attraction. The very moment you stop chasing is the moment she begins to wonder, What makes him so difficult to catch? And when she wonders, she begins to value. And when she values, everything else follows naturally. From this moment forward, commit to becoming the man whose time must be earned, not through manipulation, not through tactics, but through your unwavering presence, your relentless purpose, and your quiet power. Because the man who truly builds himself, who fills his own cup, protects his energy, who is to beg to be chosen, he simply continues on his path. And the right woman sooner or later will choose to walk beside him. There is something more dangerous than rejection, something more haunting than betrayal, something more powerful than hearing yes or no. It's indifference. And when does indifference begin? It starts the very moment she thinks she already knows everything about you. When the mystery dies, so does her curiosity. And without curiosity, there is no pursuit. Mystery isn't just attractive, it's essential. In every story that pulls you in every narrative that lingers in your mind, one thing keeps you turning the page: the unknown. It's not the ending that keeps you hooked. It's the tension, the gap between what's seen and what's still hidden. That's what sparks imagination. That's what makes hearts race. Think back to your favorite movie.
Oh.
The characters who stayed with you, the ones who intrigued you. They didn't reveal everything in the first act. They held something back. They made you lean forward. They gave you fragments just enough to make you chase the meaning behind the mask. They created space for discovery. Yet most men sabotage their own narrative. They meet a woman they like and feel the need to impress. So they overshare. They pour everything out in the first few conversations: their dreams, their struggles, their heartbreaks, their fears. They believe they're being genuine. They call it honesty, transparency. But what they don't realize is they've just handed her the final chapter before the story has even begun. And when a story ends too soon, the reader puts the book down. There's no curiosity left, no unfolding journey to follow. It becomes predictable, forgettable. Machiavelli once warned. A man who reveals all his intentions becomes predictable. And the predictable man? He's easy to defeat not in battle, but in dating, in connection, in attraction. This doesn't mean you're entering a war zone, but it does mean something critical. If she already knows every thought you think, every emotion you feel, and every move you plan to make, what's left for her to discover? What reason does she have to lean in, to explore, to stay intrigued? Mystery is not about playing games. It's about protecting depth. Because the moment everything is revealed too early, nothing feels earned. And when things aren't earned, they're rarely valued. That's the subtle danger. When you offer everything freely, you unintentionally diminish its worth. Let's be crystal clear. This isn't about being cold. This isn't about manipulation. It's about restraint. It's about recognizing a truth few talk about. You are a vault, not a vending machine. The more she has to unlock, the more invested she becomes in what lies within. It's human nature. We cherish what costs us something. Now picture two men. The first man wears his heart openly, like an exposed wire. He shares every scar, hoping they'll be seen as strength. He over-explains his intentions. He analyzes each moment, over-gives to prove his value, and pours his soul out too quickly. He wants to connect so badly, he forgets to protect the very thing that makes him magnetic: his soul's mystery. He's like a documentary, informative, detailed, even sincere, but ultimately forgettable. Now imagine the second man. He moves with more purpose. He's warm. Yes, he isn't cold or detached, but he's measured, knows what to share, and more importantly, when to share it. He listens more than he speaks. He lets moments linger. He's not trying to be understood, all at once. He doesn't chase validation through disclosure. He's grounded, anchored in who he is, even in silence. And because of that, she leaves the conversation not knowing everything but wanting to. She thinks about him afterward. Texts him just to uncover one more piece of the puzzle. Because desire is born in discovery. It can't happen if there's nothing left to explore. We live in a world of oversharing, where people post their every thought, fear and hope, like a running diary. In that world, your privacy becomes power. Your discretion becomes a rare and valuable trait. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He believed that when a man conceals his intent, his influence becomes greater. It's not because he was dishonest, but because he was unreadable. And being unreadable doesn't mean being confusing. It means being captivating. It means you don't hand your blueprint to just anyone. It means there are still chapters to be revealed if, and only if she proves worthy of reading them. So ask yourself, why do you share so quickly? Is it to build trust? Or is it fear that if you don't impress her now, you'll lose your chance forever? That fear is loud. It's visible. It makes you look desperate, even if you don't mean to. But silence is strength. Stillness is magnetic. The man who holds something back not out of arrogance, but out of value, because when he does reveal something, even a small truth, it feels like a gift, a reward, a sacred entry into the inner world he doesn't show to everyone. And that is intimacy, not forced closeness, not emotional oversharing on the first date, but earned closeness. Closeness that grows from trust, depth, and presence. So how do you live this? You stop offering your soul like a menu on the first night. You guard your energy like it matters, because it does. You share selectively, intentionally. You let your life speak louder than your updates. You don't explain every shift in your mood. You don't text play-by-plays of your day just to stay on her radar. You become the man who understands that mystery isn't a mask, it's a magnet. You don't share every scar before trust is built. Not because you're hiding, not because you're wearing a mask, but because you're whole enough to walk your own path. Whole enough to invite someone to walk beside you without expecting them to carry you or to heal what you've already made peace with. You give her curiosity. And where curiosity lives, attraction begins to grow. You don't speak just to fill the air. You let silence speak for you. Because in a world saturated with noise and endless talking, the man who speaks with intention, with purpose, becomes magnetic. So remember this simple but powerful truth. The more she has to wonder, the more she'll want to know. The more she earns, the more she values. That's how meaning is created, not from what's handed over freely, but from what is discovered slowly, Machiavelli would say. The wise man hides his intent not to deceive, but to remain ungoverned. Let her feel like she's unlocking a vault, not flipping through a diary. The man who is mysterious isn't detached, he is unforgettable. He creates space. He invites her in, but not all at once. And there's something undeniably magnetic about a man who doesn't flinch. He doesn't raise his voice when emotions run high, doesn't beg for clarity when it's withheld, doesn't panic when she pulls away. He observes. He breathes. Stays still, centered, present, unwavering. And in that stillness, he becomes unforgettable. Here's the truth. Most men never come to realize. Control isn't about dominance. It's about emotional discipline. And that's the defining line, the line between the man she respects and the man she forgets. Machiavelli wrote, "The man who cannot govern his passions will soon be governed by others." This isn't just philosophy. It's practical. It's personal. It applies to attraction, to influence, to power. You see, when a woman tests you, it's not to hurt you. It's to understand you. It's to see what you're really made of beneath the surface. Can you stay calm when the plan shifts without warning? Can you stand tall when tension creeps into the room? Can you keep your composure when your ego takes a hit? Because if you can't govern yourself, how could you ever protect her? Not physically, not emotionally, it's not spiritually. And here's the unfortunate truth. Most men crumble under pressure. They get ghosted and spiral. They receive one dry message and fire back 5, hoping to correct the energy. They feel uncertainty and respond with neediness, chasing reassurance. But each time that happens, something essential is exposed. You show her that your center isn't rooted. You reveal that your identity depends on her mood, her reply, her availability. That your power is reactive, not sovereign, and nothing kills attraction faster than that, because what she truly needs, what she feels instinctively, isn't just your affection. It's your stillness, your groundedness, your quiet ability to remain unmoved by emotional turbulence. She doesn't crave perfection. She craves presence. A presence that doesn't vanish when things get uncomfortable. The man who can sit in. Silence who doesn't rush to fix or panic to explain becomes something rare. And in a world addicted to noise and speed, rarity is irresistible. Let's break it down. She pulls away for a few hours. The ungrounded man spirals. He overthinks. He doubts himself. He texts, hoping to grab her attention. He loses sleep over her silence. But the grounded man? He doesn't assume. He doesn't panic. He doesn't chase shadows. He returns to his mission. Goes back to his training, to his body, to his craft, to his peace. Because her absence doesn't shake his foundation. It sharpens it. He doesn't fall apart. He doesn't beg for answers or reassurance. Instead, he grows quieter, stronger. He doesn't react emotionally just to soothe his ego. He responds only when it's worth responding. That is the essence of masculine power. You see, most men mistake intensity for depth. They believe that raising their voice proves strength, that pleading for love makes them more lovable. But let's be honest. Louder doesn't make you right. Begging harder doesn't make you worthy. Speeding up doesn't make the path any clearer. Sometimes real power lives in the pause before you speak. Pause before you chase. The pause before you give yourself away too quickly. Because in that pause, you do something most men never learn to do. You reclaim control, not over her, not over the outcome, but over yourself. And once a man can fully govern himself, no one else can govern him. You become unshakable. Not cold, not distant, but deeply, unmistakably centered. And women feel it. Even if they can't put it into words, they notice the calm in your tone, the steadiness in your eyes, the relaxed but powerful way you carry yourself even under pressure. It's not about pretending you don't feel. It's about mastering what you feel. That's the key. You don't suppress your emotions. You hold them. You process them. You understand them before you act. You don't spill your anger into the world like broken glass. You don't bleed your insecurity onto every conversation. Because masculinity isn't about controlling others. It's about mastering yourself. So how do you become that kind of man? You start small. You slow your breath when anger rises. You feel jealousy, but you don't let it drive your actions. You feel rejection, but you don't let it define your worth. You learn to sit in the fire without losing your center. Because the man who remains calm while the world panics, he commands respect without needing to demand it. And in that quiet, grounded restraint, she feels something rare, something powerful, something ancient, something safe. Not safety born from softness or submission, but safety born from structure, from presence, from unwavering control. And then something shifts. She's no longer testing you. She's leaning in. It's not because you chased her down. It's because you didn't. So remember this the next time your heart starts racing. Don't act. Don't run. Don't rush to explain. Breathe. Anchor. Return to. Center. Because the man who stays calm under pressure doesn't need to demand love. He attracts it. Through his energy, through his presence, through the stillness he carries even in chaos. And here's the truth most men miss. You cannot be loved deeply till you are respected fully. But too many men chase love while quietly surrendering. Their self-respect. They tolerate the late replies. They excuse the passive-aggressive comments. They endure the games, the mood swings, the subtle disinterest, all in the name of patience. All in the hope that one day she'll wake up and realize how good he's been. But here's the brutal truth. Every time you let disrespect slide, you don't look noble, you look weak. You're not winning her over. You're teaching her you have no boundaries. Machiavelli warned us long ago, if you do not command respect, you invite betrayal. Let that sink in. And betrayal in relationships doesn't always come as cheating or abandonment. Sometimes it arrives in silence, in the small moments, in the gradual erosion of your boundaries. It doesn't shout. It whispers. It begins with things so subtle, you almost miss them. She cancels plans at the last minute without apology. She mocks something you value, something personal. She flirts with other men in front of you, and you say nothing. You smile through it. You nod. Tell yourself it's no big deal. You say it's fine, but deep down you know. You feel it. That quiet ache inside, the part of you that's slowly vanishing. This isn't conflict avoidance. This is self-erasure. Because here's the hard truth. If you never draw the line, how will she know where it is? And when there's no line, there's no gravity. And without gravity, there's no pull, no weight, no reason to stay. Respect isn't given for being agreeable. It's earned through clarity. Let's stop confusing peacekeeping with strength. True strength can be calm, but it must also be precise. It says, I don't need to raise my voice, but I won't let this line be crossed. Not to punish, not to manipulate, but to protect the core of who I am. Because if you don't protect your standards, you don't have standards.
No.
And when you don't have standards, you become forgettable, replaceable. Here's what most men fail to understand. A woman doesn't test you because she's cruel. She tests you because she needs to feel something solid, something real. She wants to know, can you hold your ground? Can you lead this dynamic with integrity? Can you stand as a man, or are you just a placeholder? Every time you smile through disrespect, you answer her question, not in the way you think. You show her that you can be pushed, reshaped, molded. You show her that you can be broken. But when you hold the line, when you correct gently yet firmly, when you say, it's not okay with me, and mean it and stand by it, even if it means walking away, that's when she feels something real. Not control, not dominance, but direction. Not power over her, but clarity within you. And clarity creates trust. Because in a world full of men who bend, who chase, who explain, who overcompensate, the one who stays grounded becomes unforgettable. So how do you embody this clarity? You get clear on what matters to you and you protect it. Calmly, confidently, without
apology.
If she mocks something sacred to you, you don't chuckle along. You look her in the eye and say, I don't joke about what defines me. Simple, solid, no defense needed. If she cancels on you repeatedly, you don't scramble to reschedule. You step back. You let her reach out. You give her the space to show whether she values your time or not. And if she crosses a hard boundary, you don't explode. You don't lecture. You exit. Not in drama, but in dignity. Because the man who can walk away without shouting walks with true power. You see, real masculinity was never about being liked. It's about being respected. The man who is respected will always be loved more deeply than the one who is merely liked. Machiavelli would remind us. A ruler who fears upsetting others will soon lose his throne. And as a man, your throne is your self-respect, your time, your energy, your peace. Guard it not with force, but with clarity. When you do, you become a man who isn't just wanted. You'll become a man who is trusted. If you trade those away just to keep her comfortable, you will lose her anyway. Your standards, your fire, your mission, if you shrink them to fit into someone else's comfort zone, that comfort will come at a cost. A cost you'll feel in silence. Yes, she might enjoy the power at first. She might even smile, sensing your willingness to please, but something deeper fades her desire. Because desire doesn't grow in control, it grows in admiration. So draw your lines not with rage, not with pride, but with integrity. Speak them clearly, live them consistently, force them quietly and without apology. Why? Because when you know your limits, you teach the world, including her, how to treat you. And when she feels that unshakable boundary, when she knows that you will not bend just to keep her smiling, that's when she sees you not as a boy chasing comfort, but as a man worthy of respect. A man who loses his mission, no matter how noble his intent, will always become a servant to someone else's. And often, it doesn't begin with chains. It begins with love. He meets her. He's drawn in. He adjusts. Just a little. Then a little more. He compromises. He makes her the center. And day by day, piece by piece, he hands himself away. Till one morning, he looks in the mirror and longer recognizes the man staring back. His goals? Postponed. His hobbies? Forgotten. His energy? Faded. And still, he tells himself, this is what a good man does. This is love. This is sacrifice. But here's the bitter truth no one warns you about. If you sacrifice your freedom to keep a woman, you'll lose her anyway. Because no woman, regardless of what she says in soft moments, wants to be the center of your universe. She doesn't want to orbit everything. She wants to join something greater. She wants to be part of a man's world, not be his entire world. Machiavelli said, a prince must always rule his domain. If he does not, someone else will. Was it? Man, your domain is your direction, your purpose, your sovereignty. In the moment you hand that over not just to a woman, but to anyone or anything, you lose more than your edge. You lose her respect. Because when she met you, you had fire in your eyes. You had a mission on your mind. You stood for something. She wanted to stand beside. But the moment you started orbiting her, instead of building your world, that fire began to fade. And she felt it. Not as intimacy, but as a regression. She may not say it out loud, may not even fully understand it herself. But something in her begins to retreat. Because the man who once walked with purpose now waits for direction. You became available, but you stopped being valuable. And here's the paradox that breaks so many men. A woman doesn't fall in love because you need her. She falls in love when she senses deep in her core that you don't. Not because you're cold, but because you're whole. In that wholeness, your love becomes a choice, not a crutch, not a transaction, not a dependency. And nothing is more powerful than a man who chooses a woman freely without needing to lose himself in the process. So how do you preserve that sovereignty? You keep building. Even when she says, why can't we just relax more? You stay focused. Even when she asks for more of your time, you maintain your rhythm. Even when she tries consciously or not to slow your momentum, you don't yield. Not out of ego, not to prove a point, but out of duty. Because your path matters, your mission matters, your discipline matters. She is not the reason you wake up in the morning. Your purpose is, and here's the beautiful, almost magical result. Of living this way, you begin to attract a different kind of woman. Not the one who wants to own or change you, but the one who sees your direction and respects it. Who doesn't seek to lead it, but to walk beside it. Who finds her place not above your mission, not in competition with it, but in harmony with it. And that's the woman who stays. It's not because you need her, but because you've become the man she can believe in. And if she can't, you let her go not with anger, but with grace. Because you've outgrown the version of yourself that trades freedom for fleeting affection. That chapter is closed. That era is done. You no longer bend your path just to be chosen. You no longer chase comfort at the cost of conviction. You are not the man who abandons his dreams to be accepted. You are the man who walks his path without apology, without hesitation, without guilt. And if someone wants to join you, they elevate themselves to meet you at your altitude. You don't shrink to fit into their world, you invite them to rise into yours. That is what it means to be sovereign. Machiavelli didn't romanticize love. He praised strategy, clarity, and discipline. And the most strategic thing you can ever do as a man is to never surrender your mission in exchange for the comfort of temporary closeness. Because that comfort is deceptive, it soothes you while it erodes your edge. And when you lose your edge, you lose the gravity that once pulled her toward you. So you stay sharp. You stay grounded. You keep moving forward. Not to impress her, not to win her over, but because that's who you are. That's your nature.
Oh.
A fire doesn't burn to be seen, it burns because it must. And when she sees that win, she truly realizes that you would rather lose her than lose yourself. That's when the real shift happens. That's when she stops testing and starts trusting. That's when she chooses you. Not because it's easy or convenient, but because it's rare, because it's real, because all has replaced attraction. The man who remains sovereign, who refuses to trade his inner fire for false peace, who does not bow for fleeting attention. He doesn't chase love. He commands it, not with control, not with manipulation, but by becoming the kind of man no one wants to lose. Now you understand. Attraction isn't something you chase, it's something you create, not by effort, but by essence, not by proving, but by becoming. You don't win her by chasing, you win her by stopping the chase, by choosing presence over panic, stillness over performance, purpose over desperation. Because here's the truth no one ever told. You, the man who commands love, does not beg for it. He becomes impossible to ignore, not because he's flashy, not because he's charming, but because he is grounded. He has a direction. He has standards. He has a mission. He has a throne he will not abandon, not even for love. He's not afraid of being liked less because he values being respected more. That kind of man doesn't speak to be heard. He speaks when his silence has already said enough. He doesn't appear everywhere, chasing validation. He shows up where it matters, with intention. And when a woman meets this man, she feels it instantly. She feels the weight of his presence, the edge in his restraint, the clarity in his energy, and that clarity, it calls her higher. It forces her to resort, to walk away. And if she walks, so be it. Because your worth is not measured by who stays. It's measured by what you refuse to compromise just to keep them. This is what Machiavellian wisdom teaches us. That true control is not something you grab, it's something you maintain. The true power is not loud, it's composed. That real influence is not forced, it is earned quietly and consistently through clarity, restraint, and discipline. So let's remind ourselves of the 5 principles. Build your value. Let her come to you, not through persuasion, but through presence. Let your actions speak. Don't chase anchor into your life so deeply that she feels pulled in. Keep mystery alive, not by playing games, but by revealing yourself slowly, layer by layer, because what is uncovered over time is valued for a lifetime. Master your emotions. Stay still when others would collapse, because your calm is your gravity. It's in the silence between storms that your power is revealed. When the world panics, you remain poised. When others lash out, you remain grounded. Because that calm is not passive, it's potent. It's the invisible force that draws respect without a single raised voice. So draw your lines. Find them not through noise, but with presence. Expect respect, not with yelling, not with threat, but with the quiet, unwavering energy of a man who knows his worth. That kind of man doesn't chase control. He radiates it. Woo. Protect your freedom.
You're guarded as fiercely as a king guards his throne. Stay sovereign, not just in title, but in mindset, in movement, in mission.
Your purpose isn't a side note. It's the headline. It's not something to sacrifice, something to build around. And she was never meant to replace it. She was never meant to become the mission. She's meant to walk beside it, not overshadow it. This isn't manipulation. This isn't some game of tactics or emotional checklists. This is maturity. This is masculinity, redefined. Not in shouting, not in showmanship, but in stillness, structure, self-mastery. So from now on, you don't chase clarity. You create it through decisions, not demands. You don't explain your worth to be understood. You embody your worth so deeply that it speaks before you do. You don't ask, what do I need to do to make her stay? You ask, is she strong enough to walk beside the man I truly am? Because love built on performance, it always collapses. It buckles under the weight of pretense. But love built on truth, that kind of love stands, lasts. It grows roots. And if she can't meet you there, if she cannot walk at your pace or rise to your energy, let her go. Let her walk. Not with bitterness, not with resentment, but with peace. Because the man you are becoming, the man you've always been, beneath the noise, beneath the fear, beneath the people-pleasing, he doesn't chase, he stands, he leads. He commands not with control, but with conviction. And if this message stirred something in you, if somewhere deep inside you feel still, focused and unapologetically clear, don't scroll past this moment. Don't bury it. Don't brush it off. This isn't just a video, it's a mirror like it. Subscribe not for me, but for you. For the version of you that refuses to shrink. For the version of you that stops chasing people who were never meant to be kept. Because from this day forward, you are not the man who performs to be loved. You are not the man who waits quietly hoping to be chosen. You are not the man who gives away his crown in exchange for crumbs of attention. You are the man who walks his path, even if it means walking alone. And because you walk with purpose, you will never walk empty. You don't beg for love. You don't compete for attention. Command it by mastering yourself. And that is what makes you unforgettable.